Hello and welcome to the SC20 News Desk. I am Michael Hakkarinen here with an exciting group of SC professionals led by Bill Kramer. This is the group that is putting on the technical program, and specifically we'll be talking in this interview about workshops and tutorials. To get us started, could everybody introduce themselves? Where are you and what do you do?
Sure. So my name is Leonardo Bautista. I'm a senior researcher at the Barcelona Supercomputing Center. So we are located in Barcelona. I'm an expert on fault tolerance and resilience. And this year, I'm the tutorial chair, and I'm leading the tutorials this year. Yeah.
Okay, I'm Philip Roth. I am senior research and development staff member at Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. I'm also the group leader of the newly formed Algorithms and Performance Analysis group there. And this year, I'm the chair of the Workshops program for SC20.
Hello, everyone. I am Ana Gainaru. I recently joined Oak Ridge National Lab, so I'm a computer scientist there. Before that, so 2 months ago, I was a research assistant professor with the Vanderbilt University, and I developed techniques for managing, profiling, and analyzing large-scale data. This year, I am the tutorial vice chair.
I'm Bill Kramer. I'm in Champaign, Illinois, at the University of Illinois here, where I have a couple hats. One is the director of the Blue Waters Project, a very large computing system. Another is a research professor in the computer science department and executive director of New Frontiers initiatives for the vice chancellor of research. This year, I'm the vice chair for the entire technical program, helping organize all the elements of the technical program. And that's what I'm doing this year. I've been involved with SC since the very beginning of the conference. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you everybody for joining. I'd like to start off our interview with an overarching question about the conference in general and supercomputing, science computing. In this era of a pandemic, why is it that this conference is so important to us, to everybody, to our society as we face these challenges?
Well, why don't I start and let everybody else chime in? But I think the high-performance computing, supercomputing, plays a critical role in many aspects. Basically, these are universal instruments that can either be the world's highest resolution microscope or highest resolution size telescope and anywhere in between, including predicting weather and whatever. But this time, many of the systems in the supercomputing environment are actually being used as tools to help address the pandemic. There are a number of computational ways of showing or helping gain insight into the virus, into the spread of viral activities, into what happens when we speak or talk too close to each other, and how the droplets from us are spread throughout the atmosphere, or at least in rooms. So our machines are being used to help as tools to address solutions to the pandemic, or at least mitigations to that. That's one of the reasons why it's so important that we continue with the SC series this year, because there's a lot of things that will be going on relative to COVID-19, but also a lot of things that we need to continue progress on all the other impacts that SC and supercomputing have. Anybody else want to add?
I guess we're very lucky because in our field, we are not that impacted by the pandemic. We can still work online, so research continues. It's important for us to be able to meet, to have a venue to meet and discuss all the ideas that we're developing.
You know, I think that one of the aspects that Bill touched on a bit, but touched on things like simulating the shape of the molecules of this virus, right? And trying to talk about maybe drug discovery of other molecules that can fit with those. That's one aspect that we can use our HPC systems for. But another one really is related to things we've talked about with respect to, for example, social networks in the past. Well, now we can apply it very concretely to this pandemic situation where we've got to do social contact tracing. All of that graph theory that people have been working on and trying to make sure that it performs well on HPC systems over the past several years. Now it's really coming to bear because we have a very concrete, very important context that we have to apply it to.
I think it's also important to mention that I think across the entire society we have understood today how important it is to do research, not only in HPC but in biomedicine and so on. And so I think it's important to keep going with these kind of events to show to the young generation that is understanding how important it is to do this research, to show them that we are still working and then we are still moving forward so that they can in the future apport something to society as well.
Well, thank you. Those are excellent examples of how supercomputing will play a role in solving this complex problem with complex science. Let's talk a little bit specifically about the conference. So, Leo, let me ask you and Anna to tell us a little bit about the SC tutorials and how are those going to work at the conference this year?
Yes, so this year we have a mix of pre-recorded talks and live talks for tutorials. And all the tutorials will be recorded and they will be available online for 6 months to all registered attendees. So this is a big difference in comparison to previous years, because in previous years you could not attend multiple tutorials because you could not be in multiple rooms at the same time. But this year you could just watch any tutorial one after the other. And so that that gives a great value for the registration, and this is something that we didn't have in previous years. So I think that is an important difference this year.
And we have a huge range of topics covered by the tutorials this year. So there are popular tutorials that a lot of people attended last year's on machine learning or programming languages and fault tolerance, but also we have new tutorials that are about state-of-the-art technologies that people should attend this year, like the single API for CPU and GPU. There are a few tutorials that weren't present last year that they are now. So there's a huge opportunity for people to discuss new technologies during the tutorials this year.
And I'll add on to what Leo said, that normally people have to go physically and sit in a room to watch a tutorial, but there are many things where people are restricted with travel funds or whatever, can't physically go to the venue. And this year it's open for everybody worldwide. It doesn't take very much. You don't have to spend all the time traveling and or paying for hotel rooms and stuff. So it's actually a very, very good return on your investment for the registration fee.
I know some students from my university in Romania that will be attending for the first time the conference.
So it's nice to hear the trade-off that there will be disadvantages to not being able to meet in person, but in this case, it sounds like really a lot of advantages to being able to put things online and on demand virtually for an extended period of time. Phil, tell us a little bit about the changes that are coming to workshops this year. What will they look like?
So in many ways, the changes that Leo and Ana have just talked about apply also to workshops, right? So they'll also be recorded and they'll be available for that 6-month period after the conference. So if a person can't attend a particular workshop when it's initially presented, they'll be able to go back after the fact with the workshops registration and view whatever they like at as many of the workshops as they like. So from the organizers' perspective, we're pretty harsh on the organizers this year because we asked them to give us a lot of information earlier than they are used to giving it to us, if at all, that they haven't had to give it to us in the past. Like Leo's tutorials, we'll have presentations during workshops that are a mix of some are pre-recorded videos followed by a live Q&A session, or other ones will be a live presentation where a person's able to speak and make all those verbal mistakes like I'm making now. I think just to echo Ana's statements, that I'm really impressed with the range of topics that we have for our workshop program this year. And this is not really different from past years, other than maybe the specifics. We always have a good range of workshop topics at SC, but this year, we have the hot topics, the machine learning, deep learning, AI type topics. We have workshops that are focused on those. We have workshops, a brand new one this year that's focused on quantum computing. I think that one's going to be a popular one. We have some that are really close to my heart, either because I helped organize them in past years or because I think they're topics that are really relevant to the things I do in my day job. Things like the Parallel Data Systems Workshop, and the Performance Portability and Productivity in HPC Workshop, P3 HPC. The last one that I'm really excited about this year, and I think Bill probably is excited about too, Research Software Engineer workshops are starting to get more traction. I think it's great that our community is is recognizing the important contributions that people are doing with research software engineering. And so we have workshops focused on women in HPC. We have workshops focused on things like this wonderful SciNet that we have in an in-person year. The SciNet folks, I don't know what they're doing to occupy their times this year, because they don't have to build this best computer network in the world and then tear it down in a day. Which they have to do in a normal in-person year. I don't know, maybe they're going to go and attend all the other workshops, but they have a workshop that's specifically focused on networking in HPC. So our range of topics is just as broad as it normally is. And again, that value that you're going to get as an attendee by getting a workshop's registration is that you can actually sample all of that broad range of topics at your leisure after the conference is over.
Thank you, Phil. It sounds like you've not only adjusted the logistics for both workshops and tutorials, but you've also adjusted the content and been able to kind of broaden the materials that you're covering. You also mentioned a topic on women in supercomputing, and I'd like to bring this question back to you, Bill. In your experience, you've worked with many diverse teams and designed nearly 24 supercomputers. How did you take that experience and apply it to leading this group here in preparation for this conference?
Sure, I'll answer that in two parts. One about our thrust for increasing diversity within the conference, both attendees, but actually within the committees as well. And that's an explicit focus of the executive committee under which we work is to make steps, and the steering committee make steps to make sure that we are very inclusive and have a broad breadth of backgrounds and people with different points of view and different experiences. So that's the conference has been doing that for a number of years, and you see that in kind of the people that are helping make the conference, but also will be attending. So I think that that's a great activity that the conference initiated and is progressing on, and actually measures itself in terms of how it moves on. So that's great, and adds to our diverse and excellent team of volunteers. There's about 700 volunteers that are making this conference happen. And they support about, well, we don't know yet exactly how many, but probably 10,000 people attending with that. So going to your second question, making large supercomputers work is a very large project, involves many people with many skills. And most times you kind of know what to expect once you do it several times, and kind of know what to expect, but there's always something that comes up that is completely unexpected, and those teams have to accommodate that and move forward and make a success out of whatever that is. So like if the system doesn't show up, or the vendor has a business issue or technical issue, then these teams have to work to find a solution in a rapid amount of time. So supercomputing is very much the same thing. It's basically a large project every year to make that conference happen. And we have people that have a great deal of experience in doing that, like Phil, and we have some people that are new to the conference in some manner, particularly in leading parts of it, like Ana and Leo. So the experiences of how do you organize, how do you make large projects work is really what my experience is more than anything else. And sometimes you have to rapidly change what you're doing. And that's what we're doing this year, right? Nobody envisioned that we would be even virtual at all. And it took a tremendous amount of effort by the volunteer teams. We had to bring in some additional people to help with that have background in the conference, but we're not volunteering this year. And they've done a tremendous job of figuring out how technology-wise we can represent or do a virtual conference. And then there is, as Phil mentioned, a lot more work for the volunteers and actually the speakers and content providers. So doing things much earlier to get them recorded and put in place and quality checks on that, and probably re-recording some of those. Those were all things that were unexpected, but the entire community said, yes, this is what we want to do. The content providers, be they in workshops or tutorials or the other parts of the technical program, are all working very hard to make this a great event, and the value at least as good, if not more, as we discussed, in terms of access to information, being able to participate in multiple different ways. So the experiences of fielding large-scale machines translates into this. I will also say that my experiences in SC have helped me do better at fielding large-scale machines and working with teams like this, and with many different people coming from different places. And that's been a great help in my career as well, the experiences I get as a volunteer in SC to actually do my real job that they pay me for sometimes.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for lending your expertise to making this conference work. As you mentioned, it's been a tremendous pivot to turn to this virtual environment. And you mentioned that some people might be attending the conference for the first time, but the reality is everybody's attending the conference for the first time in this virtual format. So I'd like to wrap up with one last question for everyone. What would be your advice to an attendee so that they can take the most advantage of attending the conference in this format this year at SC20?
I will start with focus more narrowly on the workshops. Okay, so even though we are saying and recognizing that there's a good value of being able to go look at, for example, workshops or tutorials after the conference is over, the opportunity to actually ask live questions is going to be during the initial run. And so at least for our elements, it does behoove someone to actually take a look at our schedule and decide, which ones do I want to be there live for, because I might have actual questions I want to ask. And then the other ones, which maybe I can, I don't want to say don't care as much about, but I'll prioritize a little bit lower so that we, maybe I can just be fine with just seeing what other people had asked questions for those. So I do think it's important to take a look at the schedule ahead of time and try to plan out your week. It is important too to recognize that this year, unlike in-person years, SC is stretched across 2 weeks. Tutorials and workshops are happening ahead of the originally announced dates for the conference. If you paid attention back in January, you thought it was one particular week. And now everybody's got to know that workshops and tutorials are happening the week before that. That'd be my advice.
And SC is overwhelming, even in person.
Yes.
I remember when I was a student volunteer, there's so many things happening. It's really hard to keep track. And this year, because we were expecting attendees from new places and new backgrounds, we have so many fields, from tutorials or workshops or presentations that address beginners in HPC to experts or to scientific people. So it's not just for computer science. So you definitely need planning before. Take the time, choose what you want to attend, and make a plan, definitely.
I completely agree with that. And I think what Phil just mentioned is even perhaps more important in the case of tutorials, because you have the hands-on sessions where you have to actually kind of follow at the same time with the speaker, with the presenter, and try to execute what they are trying to show you or what they are trying to teach you. So it's really important that if there is a particular tutorial that you really want to attend, then you try to do that one live, and then take the other ones to watch afterwards. So I think that is specifically important. And I will add a second thing, and is that this year we did something new for tutorials, and is that we opened the opportunity for tutorial presenters to give resources ahead of time, so that the tutorial attendees can go and see what they need to do in preparation for the tutorial. So, for example, some tutorial have planned to use some kind of a specific image, or they give you a container with all the software that you need for the tutorial. But sometimes that that image is heavy. In the previous year, you could just pass on a USB key, and that would solve the issue. But because of the virtual component this year, that is not possible, right? So we put all those resources online, and those are already available in the program. So go to the website of SC20, go to the program, and look at the resources in tutorials so that you can prepare for the tutorial ahead of time.
So there's one thing, Leo and Ana, that I don't think you've mentioned yet, right? So that's new this year. You've innovated in that tutorials are stretched. For example, a full day tutorial is not given within one day. Now it's a morning tutorial on 2 successive days. You want to speak to that?
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for that, Phil. It's true. So we talked with several of the presenters when we understood that we were going to do this virtual, and many of them suggested that perhaps the best option for full day tutorials was to split it in 2 days, because it's very hard to sit down in front of a screen for 7 hours and follow these things, right? So I think to kind of have some context switch and to be able to focus better, we decided to split full day tutorials into 2 days. So you can have like first half in the morning of Monday and the second half in the morning on Tuesday, or the afternoon of Monday and afternoon of Tuesday. So I think that is something you have to pay attention to.
It also helps with the time zone. So it allows European people to attend tutorials that are scheduled for US.
Yes.
We have done several things to try to accommodate the fact people will be spread around the world rather than in one set of hotels. And that also includes for our colleagues in Asia, the entire rebroadcast of the sessions in their daytime time zones there. So trying to accommodate this mix of 24-hour time clock in addition to all the other things we're doing, and some of the innovations for the conference.
Was there anything we forgot to cover?
So I would just say, again, comments about how great the volunteer staff is and how much effort and energy they're putting in above and beyond what they normally do is something that the attendees should understand and appreciate this time around, because I would say it's probably at least twice as much work as we're used to in making this revised format work.
Well, Bill, thank you for sharing your expertise and for putting this conference together. That makes me think what you just said about volunteers. It takes a super effort to put together a supercomputing conference. So who would each of you like to give some super recognition to for making SC20 happen and be so successful this year?
Well, my first response is the people who are here in this interview and all the other people who help with the technical program deserve an awful lot of extra credit and maybe extra hugs when you see them in person, because there's about 450 people involved with the technical program in various aspects, and they've all done much more effort this time around to A, do this pivot, and B, get everything organized earlier. So they've done a tremendous job, and normally they do a tremendous job, but this year I think it's been extraordinary or exascale type level of jobs that we have our volunteers doing. And then the other thing is the leadership of the conference. The general chair, Irene Walters, who chairs the technical program, they all have been extremely supportive, but also very flexible and innovative in helping make this come together in a much different style than we had. So thank you to all the people that are helping make the conference work, and thank you for all the people that will be attending the conference, and we hope that it turns out to be a great experience.
I definitely have to thank Laura Schultz, my vice chair, who's not able to be with us today. And then Manuel Valera is our lead student volunteer. He's helped us quite a bit with respect to trying to get everything ready to go on this virtual platform. My biggest shout out has to go to the workshop organizers. They are in many cases getting asked to provide information or files or such on very short notice. For the most part, I'm not hearing a heck of a lot of grumbling, but I'm sure in their minds or to their families and friends, they're complaining loudly about this craziness that we're asking them to do. But we're hoping that they understand it's necessary to make just the best experience for the attendees that we can provide. And then my final shout outs would go to the people who are working on the SC conference organizing side to prepare the virtual platform. That's Jackie Kern, and in our case for workshops, Clea Marples and Becky Verastegui have really led that for us in workshops. Leo and Anna have worked with some other folks, Jackie and some other folks different from that, but they have certainly taken the brunt of trying to figure out how this virtual platform is going to work and what information we need to provide and how we're going to actually get it all processed in time to have the conference go off without a hitch in a little over a week.
I think, yeah, from the tutorial side, we want to thank, I think, of course, the PC members that have helped us choose a great spectrum of tutorials this year. As Anna mentioned, there are the classic ones, but there are also very new ones that are very interesting. And of course, as Phil mentioned, really great work has been done from the presenters to be able to accommodate to do the pre-recordings in time. We have asked them so many things this year that usually is not the case, and they have managed to do that in time. So thank you to them. And thank you, for the leadership of Supercomputing Conference, Irene, Christine. They have managed to adapt so fast to some really hard constraints, and we have been changing so many times, and they have been so flexible and to be able to accommodate for all the things that needs to be done to implement a virtual conference. So I think thank you to all of them. Yeah.
I feel like there's so many people involved in this. We could just say thank you to the HPC community. It's like the organizers, the presenters, the attendees. Basically, we're covering the entire field.
All right. Well, excellent sentiments from everybody. Thank you so much for all of your work as well. The innovation, the hard work, the effort, the coordination, the expertise that you've shared. Thank you for making SC20 conference so successful. I wish I could attend in person and get to meet all of you, so we'll have to put that off until next year, but I look forward to working with you in the future and getting to meet you in person. And to all of you who are watching, stay tuned to SC20 News Desk for more interviews from the International Conference for High Performance Computing, Networking, Storage, and Analysis. Thank you.